Let us say the spirit of our mother. The essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Black power!
Are you feeling fatigued and can barely make it through the day without some type of caffeine?
Are you on a journey of healing your body but need a little help?
Then alkaline water is what you really need.
Alkaline water has many benefits. Alkaline water can help restore pH balance in the body. Consuming beverages such as soda and coffee can make your body acidic.
Did you know that too much acid in your body has been linked to an internet, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disease, chronic pain, and other chronic conditions like gout and arthritis?
Those who use alkaline water have reported increased energy levels, clearer skin, reduction in inflammation, better digestion, and many other health benefits. I've used alkaline water for years, and it's been instrumental in sustaining my health when I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis.
Are you ready to take responsibility for your body's health?
If the answer is yes, then our alkaline water is just what you need. Bring your own bottles. It's only $3 for each gallon. To place an order or for more information, you can reach us at 773-846-3091. Thank you in advance for your support.
Hi, my name is Sister Ebony Stevenson. I am your announcer for today. Welcome to the Toma Nation's weekly Sunday worship service from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. every Sunday at 616 East 71st Street here in Chicago, Illinois, and also live on Facebook. If you would like more information, you can reach us at www.facebook.com/TomaNation2 or give us a call at 773-952-8302. Now I am going to recite our opening. In the name of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, and the one who made time the seed of the universe, known among the ancient Kemites or Egyptians as Amun-Ra and Aton, among the Hebrews as Ansar, Yahweh, and Elohim, among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah, among the Muslims and Islamic world as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah Rastafari, among the Yoruba tribes of West Africa as Odumare, Eshu, and many other Orisha names. I bear witness that all these names refer to the same one, Almighty Spirit, and it is to that essence which I give reverence and to whom I submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the Lost 13 tribe, born in North America and are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all the nations of the earth flows through our veins. I greet you in the ancient but holy words of peace, Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Habaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. Now I am going to recite the 13 points of what we believe and know. Number 1. We believe and know that we are not to repeat the mistakes of the past prophets and messengers of the Almighty Creator of the heavens and earth. Number 2. We believe and know that we can only establish an economic base through the application of the knowledge of self and the incorporation of the ideologies of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Mahatma Gandhi, and Ben Ami. Number 3. We believe and know that the prophets, the whole Bible, the Holy Quran, and the Kemetic Holy Books were all black. Number 4. We believe and know that Jesus Christ of 2,000 years was and is a black man. Number 5. We believe and know that the knowledge of the Almighty Creator goes beyond books written by the prophets and messengers of the Almighty Creator. Number 6. We believe and know that in order to promote and coordinate unity, we must first recognize and accept the uniqueness of being able to work together regardless of religious denomination, name, title, ritual, particular dress, or holy book, as long as it recognizes the Almighty Creator of the heavens, earth, and the universe as supreme. Number 7. We believe and know that it is impossible to tell the truth without exposing the wicked governments of the world. Number 8. We believe and know that the United States government, in collaboration with other European nations, have a denial objective to exterminate dark-skinned people of color off the earth through the act of genocide. Number 9. We believe and know that some of the most effective methods that are being used today are AIDS, birth control, alcohol and drug abuse, vaccinations, gang and domestic violence, systematic elimination of trauma centers, the public school system, and public aid within the black communities of America and the world. Number 10. We believe and know that the last trick that Satan is playing on us is the dividing of us by our religious differences, religious gangbanging. Number 11. We believe and know that the conflict between the various religions are comparable to the conflict between various street gangs within the inner cities of America. Number 12. We believe and know that the war on drugs and gangs is a diabolical plot to disarm the black community of weapons, break up the black family, withdraw our constitutional rights, also kill and incarcerate young black males under the undercover code name April 2029. And number 13, we believe and know that every letter, shape, sound, and numerical value contains esoteric information that completely transcends the contextual meaning of the word. Our purpose: to bring about the growth of a righteous community in accordance with the laws of the Creator of the universe, under the leadership and guidance of Brother Minister Hakim Aton, to provide solutions to the social and economic ills that plague the communities of urban America. Our goal: to re-educate and retrain youth and young adults to develop positive moral values as an alternative to delinquent behaviors, because you can't rebuild a community and not rebuild the minds of the residents of the community to meet the responsibilities of maintaining the community's image. Our mission: to enhance the economic development of our communities by establishing businesses, real and personal properties, thereby creating jobs and/or entrepreneurship training programs that will reverse the concept of leaving the community to buying back the community. Our motto: let your light so shine before men that they shall see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Now we're going to recite our salute to the red, black, and green flag. Everyone put your right fist in the air and repeat after me. Here's to this flag of mine, the red, black, and green. Hopes in its future bright, Africa has seen. Here's to the red of it, great nations shall know of it. In time to come, red blood shall flow of it. Historians shall write of it, this flag of mine. Here's to the black of it, 400 million's back of it, whose destiny depends on it. The red, black, and green of it, oh flag of mine. Here's to the green of it. Young men and women shall dream of it, face shots and shells for it. Maidens shall sing of it, waving so high. Here's to the whole of it, colors bright and whole of it. Pleased is my soul with it, regardless of what is told of it. Thanks to God for giving it, this great flag of mine. Please keep your right fist raised high in the air as we sing our Black National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Black power, black power, black power. Black power is the power to define, develop, and defend that which is in the best interest of Black people.
Peace, peace. I am Minister Taharka J. Shakur. I am the Youth Minister of the Temple of Mercy Association, and I'd like to begin with our opening. In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one that exists within us, the one who directs the sunships of millions and trillions of years, and the one who made time, the seed of the universe, known among the ancient Kemites as Amun-Ra and Aton, among the Hebrews as An Sof, Yahweh, and Elohim, among the Christians as Lord, God, and Jehovah, among the Muslim and Islamic world as Allah, the one God, among the Rastafarians as Jah, Rastafari, among the Yoruba tribes of West Africa as Odumare, Eshu, and many other Orisha names. I bear witness that all of these names and many more refer to the same one, Almighty Creator. And it is to that essence that I give reverence and submit. I boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of the Black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13th tribe, born here in North America and are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. I further proclaim that the blood of all nations flow through our veins. And I greet you in the ancient holy words of that of our ancestors in Hotep. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Abaragani. Alafi. And Ashe. Again, welcome, family, to the Toma Nation's weekly worship service. We are all-inclusive Black righteous conscious movement dedicated to the social, economic, and spiritual survival of Black people in urban America. Again, I am Minister Taharka J. Shakur, and this movement is founded by our leader and teacher and guide, Minister Rahim Kased Aton. Our co-founder is Minister Omari Jahi Aton, and our First Lady is Sister Makita Aisha Aton. And we have a powerful message coming to us in a little bit from our Minister Yashua about the culture of believers. But I want to spend a little time to just to remind you guys that we are still doing the fast of Ramadan, and that we are keeping to that, and just go right into it. All righteous members of the Toma Nation are practicing Ramadan in accordance with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by fasting during the month of November. The purpose is to keep the righteous members. December. Thank you. December. I said November, but the purpose is to keep the righteous members from partaking in the celebration of falsehoods of the birthday of Jesus Christ, and able to prevent the righteous from partaking in the celebration of the falsehoods of Santa Claus. During the daylight hours, the righteous are to abstain from food, drink, and sex until after sundown. The righteous will also abstain from eating meat throughout the month of December, starting December 1st. It is clearly stated in the Holy Quran, fasting is prescribed for you so that you may guard yourself against evil. But also join us as we get into the Kwanzaa spirit. That's why I'm starting, it's the holiday spirit, they say. So I'm getting into what I celebrate this holiday spirit, getting into the holiday spirit. So join us on the Day of Appreciation as we prepare to have our pre-Kwanzaa celebration. I'm going to start throwing that part in there because we appreciate that Kwanzaa is following. They have New Year's, what's they call it, Christmas Eve. Appreciation Day is our Kwanzaa's Eve, is the day that we already come together. And we invite people out on December 25th to join the Toma family as we hold our Day of Appreciation from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. All members and friends can call Sister Makita if they want to bring a food dish. You can get in contact with the temple to find out how to get in contact with Sister Makita. While the world is observing and participating in devil holidays, Satan Claus, we'll be fasting, teaching, and sharing and reflecting on the upcoming Kwanzaa 7-day celebration that starts that following Monday on December 26th through Sunday, January 1st. And we also do not celebrate that New Year. Our New Year is actually in April. And so join us that December 31st as we, the Toma family, hold our night of reflection from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. All members and guests and friends are invited to join us at the Toma headquarters for both events at 616 East on 71st Street, so we can reflect on the last 12 months that the Creator allowed you to experience. Because April 1st is when nature truly begins and the hibernation ends. So while the world is observing and participating in riotous living, we'll be teaching, sharing, and reflecting. But with that, I wanted to reflect on something. Last week, I started a little conversation, and I know I'm going to really go into it in my lecture. I think this might be one of the first times to have a lecture title that can be promoted a week before the lecture. But there's a conversation that we as a people really, truly need to understand, and I shared a little bit about it on my Facebook. There's a book that we study in the Temple of Mercy now called the Black Root Science. And at the back of the book, there's these things called the 10 important facts that the book is trying to teach you. And one of the first facts is that the Black man and woman is God. How many of us have to understand that fact? See, Minister Yashua was bringing a lecture about the cultures of believers, but if I was to talk about a belief that we need to have in the culture that should surround this specific belief, that the Black man and woman is God, to level it up to a knowing, but you have to start to believe it first. As we say, we believe and know in the temple, as we give you our 13 points, we believe and know that the Black man and woman is God. We believe it and we know it that the Black man and woman is God. And with that understanding, how much sympathy should we have if we know we're living in a world that is serving Satan? As we teach, we know Satan was given, we are even about to celebrate one of his holidays, where we are lying to our children and building a culture of lying to our children for them to believe, because you're teaching them that Santa Claus bought them these gifts, this white image. They give you a white image for Jesus, and they give you a white image for the most cheeriest holiday that we celebrate. And when we look at that and the culture that breeds, and the lying consistently to us, we can see the same effects when we were lied to in slavery. And what that built, and this fallacy that we needed the white man, that them being over us was something that we needed. The Jim Crow era, when we were segregated, they got us to believe that we needed them. And that's why we integrated when we had everything that we needed as a people during segregation, one of the wealthiest nations in the world. So what is this belief that we have now that we have to let go of if we're talking about being the culture of believers? With the first fact that the book Black Root Science is trying to remind us of, not teach us, but remind us of, is that the Black man and woman is God. What the book begins to share is that for us to end this cycle, I used to say that we could end the state of that we are in overnight. A paradigm shift can happen instantly if we just wanted it to happen. Enough of us just stop and put our mindset into having this happen. See, we talk about the mind and understanding in the temple. We call the great mind, knowing that we are limited a piece of its mind, but the world says we only use about 5%, 8%, 10% of our brain. But what if we was to start tapping into all of our mind again? And then remember, then we will see that as we are tapping into that and using our mind to manifest the things that we want, we can really start seeing the world as, I love when the minister plays the song Imagination. And he begins to say, imagine a world where this is happening and our children are safe and the community is building. We're buying from each other. We're loving each other again. That's the imagine that. But we have to understand that we have lost our imagination, and to remember that we are gods as one of the major things in that. And looking at the difference when we see how minister last week was talking about, let us make man again. And that there was a different man made that we've become as Black people. See, that lecture could have went two different ways. He could have taught you who the white man was when he said, let us make man. But he was like, look at the man that we've become today and remembering who we are, because we have forgotten how simple it is if we break the pieces back down. If we restruct our minds, the Honorable Chairman, I'm sorry, he was the chairman as well, but Huey Newton said we have to kill the white man inside us. He said revolutionary suicide must happen. And how many of us are willing to kill? Literally let that side of you die that the white man has implanted in you. As Minister Omari was saying, all that extra ingredients that was added into your pineapple. What's the dessert? Pineapple cream cheesecake. I don't eat cream cheese. That's why it was hard for me to say that. I love pineapples though. But when we look at how we then have to really infuse that energy back into ourselves, what we have to remind ourselves of again. I had a dream this morning. It was crazy, and it was actually a nightmare that I had as a child. And I woke up because it amazed me. I haven't had that dream since I was like 9 years old. It's one of them dreams. I used to get left at home a lot. My family, my father would take my sisters and my mother out, and I went to a different school or I went to a different church. So whenever I come home, they wouldn't be there. So one time I had a dream, right, that they never came back, and I was living by myself for a while. Then somebody ended up finding out that I was living by myself, and I ended up getting put with this family. And I'm trying to see why the Spirit even had me had this dream this morning, so I'm talking about it right now. And so in the dream, I ended up getting paired with this older family. They ended up taking custody of me. But it was ridiculous because this dream, I was already dealing with a fear of isolation and being left alone. That when I got with this family, they put me in the basement, and they not only put me in the basement, they had retractable stairs. So they pulled up the stairs and was like, no, you have to stay down here. We'll take care of you. We'll feed you and such, but you have to stay in the basement. That lasted for a while. Then I end up, and it was crazy. So I woke up right in that moment when the stairs retracted up, and I asked, and he had a stick, and he was like, get back with the stick. And I was like, whoa, the feeling that I felt in that dream, I felt instantly. And I woke up, I was like, whoa, what was that? And I asked the God, I said, why are you showing me this? I remember this dream. I remember why I even had this dream, and I thought I was going to lose my family because they kept on leaving me all the time. And I seen another life of what would have happened if that happened, how it would have played out. And so I tried to lay back down, went right back into the dream. And I was like, wow, because that was the point when I was younger that I would wake up from. But something told me, no, you have to see what else happened in that dream. And so eventually they let me upstairs. They owned a restaurant. They let me eventually start helping out in a restaurant. I'm helping out in the restaurant, and they tell me a story about why they kept me in the basement. They just had two young men right before me that they adopted, and they were rowdy. They used to run throughout the house. They had a room and everything, and they ended up killing each other because how rowdy was. These were elders, so they really couldn't watch, and they would fight all the time, and they ended up killing each other in that room. And so they didn't want me, one, in that room, and then two, they just dealt with some rowdy kids. They didn't know who I was, so I was being misjudged based off of the opinions of others, and something that happened with other people. Oh, now I remember why the Creator is having me go here. Because I felt it. And as they got to know me, they decided to open up a little bit more and tell me what they wanted. But then the the elder died. I started calling him Papa at a certain age. I'm like 16 at this time. He passes away. So it's just me and the wife. And she's doing LD, and a few months after that, she passes away. But they leave me the restaurant in the will and signed me. I was old enough to be signed over to custody because they was like, he raises himself at this point because they both were elderly at that point. So I was taking care of them. And I ended up getting all the way up to the age that I was, and then I woke up again. I was like, wow. I felt like I had to experience that other side because sometimes our mind. I was watching a movie called Slumberland, and in the movie on Netflix, they said that we give you the dreams. This council gives you the dreams that you need for the journey that's ahead, not what you want, but what you need. Because in the movie, she just lost her father and she didn't know, so it took her back to the lighthouse because her father wasn't there to get her to be like, okay, you have to move on. And so as I look at that dream, and maybe what they even wanted to show me then, that even though I was isolated, I still had to be myself. So don't lose who I am, no matter what everybody else is looking at. And that's what we have lost as a people. We've let this world tell us who we are. You know, we let the news tell us who we are. We let the murder rate that continues rise in our community tell us who we are. We let the gunshots that we hear at night in our neighborhoods tell us who we are. But we as a people know that we're way more than what those things are trying to tell us that we are. We understand that there was a system in place to let those things be a norm inside of our community so we can have this mindset that we are less than. But even though that's not the majority of what's happening in our communities, even when we look at the numbers of people that have died this year from homicide, the numbers have been going down consistently, but they have tried to convince us that it's getting worse and worse. But if you go from the 90s to now, their numbers are down. So what they're trying to tell us about who we are cannot be, and we have to separate our minds from that thinking, separate ourselves and free ourselves from letting us be defined by what we're told as we're going through the miseducation public school system. So then we get into this work world and we're not told that we can't be ourselves to move up, or our friends say, while you're talking about that, we should be focusing on having fun. But even somebody mentioned to me that the revolution can still be fun. Do you think before we made the white man, we didn't have fun before? That we didn't know what a smile was and enjoying a good time? But this world was not made for sport and play, but I'm pretty sure the world we might have lived in before could have been. Because it was something we had to learn here when we dealt with this evil. And we can't play around with this evil. We can't be entertained by this evil. We have to grow through this and elevate. But I would like to bring to you at this time, as I prepare what that full lecture is going to be, and bring some more points for that for next week. I want to bring to you, I always talk about him being the inspiration for me coming into the temple. And whenever he lectures, it reminds me why I say that, because he has such a way with words and such a presence when he up here, and when the Creator uses him, it's a blessing. So we can stand on our feet, and in virtual land, you can stand and clap your hands as we welcome Minister Yashua to the podium for his lecture, Culture of the Believer.
Black power. Black power. Black power. Good evening, family. How's everyone doing this evening or afternoon? And if you're in Facebook land, it might be morning somewhere. I'd just like to begin by reciting our opening in the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent, the one who directs the sonships of millions and trillions of years, the one who's made time the seed of the universe. Known among the ancient Kemites or the indigenous people of Africa is Amun-Ra and Aton. Among the Hebrews is Ansof, Yahweh, and Elohim. Among the Christians is Lord God and Jehovah. Among the Muslim and the Islamic world is Allah, the one God. Among the Rastafarians is Jah, Rastafari. we at the Temple of Mercy Association bear witness that all of these names refer to the same one eternal divine spirit, and it's to that essence and that essence alone that we give reverence and to whom we submit. We boldly proclaim that we, the descendants of those black men and women who survived the transatlantic slave trade, are the lost 13th tribe, born in North America, and we are of a Nubian Kemetic lineage. The blood of all the nations of the earth flow through our veins. I greet you in the ancient Bayolic holy words of peace, which are Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, Abaragani, Alafia, and Ashe. All the greetings and salutations in the various languages and religions that we happen to find black people in America involved in. And if you don't have a religious persuasion and you just come from the south side of Chicago like me, what's up, Joe? Today, my title is The Culture of the Believer. The culture of the believer. Because for some reason, I don't know about y'all, but there's so much talk about our culture as a people, and what is being defined as our culture is not the culture or the purpose that God created us for. Our culture, most commonly described in the media, is usually through entertainment, through the music industry. And most of the music, 99.9999% of what we are presented as our culture is a culture of death. The drill, the slide, the kill music. And they say we're doing it for the culture. That's not the culture of black people. That's not the reason God said in the Bible, come, let us make man in our likeness and after our image. He didn't create us for a world of sport and a world of play, but he created us with a world of intention and a world of purpose. And so, as Minister Tahaka just alluded to, we have to begin to redefine and redevelop those things that we consider culture among us, that we can determine what's in the best interest of our community. Gun violence is at an all-time high. Almost every piece of music out by young people today is the use of some gun, the use of some drugs, and the misuse of some resources. And it seems to continue to perpetuate into our communities, but nobody really wants to connect the dots. Nobody really wants to go to the root of what's causing the violence in our community. In the past 2 weeks, we lost somewhere between 10 and 13 teenage children to gun violence. We lost young adults to gun violence. And we come out as a people, and the only thing that we can say is, Lord, I don't know what's wrong with these children. There's nothing wrong with these children because God made them. I'm going to say that again. There's nothing wrong with these children because God made them. The challenge and the problem that we have in our community is that someone else is influencing the behavior of our children in our community. It is normal for boys to fight, young boys. It's normal. It's a form of masculinity. It's a form of aggression that, if directed in the right manner, it would not lead to death. The challenge that we got in our community is that somebody opened up a flood of illegal, quick kill weapons of mass destruction in our community. There are no more 6-shooters, ain't no more single shot, 2-shot rifles. These children got access to 50-round drums, 100-round drums, 200-round drums. Who designed that and put that in our community? And created the condition for us to kill ourselves like this? Why is there no connection between the flood of guns in our community and the people that are making the guns? If we're going to get to the root of the gun violence in our community, we got to start with where the gun was made. I don't know about y'all, but I love watching the Blacklist with Raymond Reddington. And in many instances in this show, they would find out what type of weapon was used, trace it back to the manufacturer, find out who the arms dealers was that was selling that gun, and they can figure out who you sell that gun to, who had that gun, who would have access to these type of guns, and they would be able to pinpoint, it was this person, it was that person. Well, when are we going to be able to pinpoint who's doing this in our community? Why are not Black people coming against the National Rifle Association, which is continuing to push the use and the distribution of these guns in America, but yet we won't say one word about the National Rifle Association? We won't say one word about the alcohol industry, knowing that it's been taught to us by many people in the past, all the way back since the 90s, when Brother Mandrake was on the scene, that there were chemicals being put into the alcohol that cause violent tendencies. And we know that alcohol is the gateway drug to almost every drug that we get addicted to. It's the gateway to violence and murder. If you grew up in the 90s like I did, when we got ready to go humbug with another block or another neighborhood, as young men always do, somebody always pulled out a bottle of Old English 800. And I remember one of the older guys used to call it the liquid courage. Man, you take your couple swigs of this, you won't be scared no more. You won't see their numbers as bigger than ours. We'll be able to go over there, take that block down. Come on, man. Take a swig of this Old English 800. They call it the courage juice. And if that was going on in the 90s, and there's a distinct difference between the alcohol that Black children drink and the alcohol that white children drink, then we ought to know that there has to be some validity to the allegations that were made and the proof that Dr. Powell had put out in his book, 40 Ounces and the Thieves. And so we got to begin to look at it. We got to begin to analyze and do our own due diligence and research. Why is it that all of our alcohol has to have violent tendencies? We drink 211. Is that not the police code for homicide? We drink Coke 45. Is that not a gun? But if you live in a white neighborhood, the name of your beer is Goose Island. It's Killian's Red. It's pale ale. No connotation to death. It don't taste the same. It don't give you the same violent tendencies, but it does what alcohol is supposed to do. It does inebriate you, but you don't leave inebriated wanting to go pick up a gun and do something to somebody. So we got to begin to define what culture really is to our community and who's going to be in charge of what culture is going to look like. Thank God for Bill Cosby. He gave us a culture in the 90s of Black people doing positive things under the roof of a husband and wife and children, going to school and going to college and living a positive and productive lifestyle. While at the same time in the 90s, some other wicked enemy decided that it would be better for us to be boys in the hood, New Jack City, niggas with attitudes, and all of these other foul, defiled things that they wanted to introduce and call it our culture. We was old, dirty bastard. That was what they turned our music into and fed it back to us as our culture. Why am I continuing to harp on they? Because it is impossible to talk about the solution of Black people and talk about getting us out of the condition that we in, and not have to bring up that hidden perpetrator that is perpetrating and providing the atmosphere for the murder and the death to take place. Minister Tarka said something a few minutes ago that is just mind-boggling. How is it that every year we say, oh, we only had 660 homicides, crime is down, and we go back to sleep? We turn the Facebook and the internet off, and we turn off the TV or close up our Sun-Times and our newspaper, and we say, "Ooh, thank God, it's getting better." But those numbers have been like that for how long? How many of us have been killed? There are nobody in our race that have the same degree of love or arrogance for our people as a Netanyahu, who said the fingernail of one of their privileged people was worth more than the entire Palestinian race. There's nobody in our community, there's no leader, there's no preacher, there's no teacher, there's no pastor, there's no prophet, there's no religion that believes the loss of Black life is now a challenge. The only time that we can speak about it is when someone comes against us personally, and now we want to attack that entity publicly. But we don't know that this has been going on. We don't know that Planned Parenthood been killing 30 million babies every single year, not just the year that Kanye quoted. We don't know that we can go all the way back to the book of the Bible where it says, "Come, let us deal wisely with them," speaking of the children of Israel. Lest they multiply, less chance they have of joining an enemy and coming against us. Who is us? For y'all that think we keep playing the blame game, why we always got to mention these privileged people? Why we always got to put the sandbox people on blast? Why we always got to put the icebox people on blast? Because they're the hidden hand. They are at the root cause of what's going on in our community. And if we're going to get rid of violence, if we're going to get rid of crime, if we're going to reduce the trauma of our people in our community, we got to go to the root of this problem. So Matthew chapter 13, verse 24, Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which soweth good seed in his field." In the Temple of Mercy Association, Minister Hakim taught us that time was the seed of the universe. And he used the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to expand our minds to know that the Black man and woman have been on this planet 66 trillion years. That the earth has been here 72 trillion years. That the universe has been here 76 trillion years. Why is that important for us to have a time to be able to look at all of what's going on? Because in our community, our people are more caught up in the clothes, the garment, and the attribute of the eternal divine spirit. That same eternal divine spirit that we talk about in our opening is the same eternal divine spirit that lived in Marcus Garvey. That same eternal divine spirit lived in the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Ben Ami Ben Israel. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That same eternal divine spirit lived in Prophet Noble Drew Ali. That same divine spirit lived in Yashua, HaMashiach, the Messiah, the Black Christ. That same eternal divine spirit. So when are we as Black people going to rise above the dress, the religion, the prayer, the customs of this same one eternal divine spirit that lived in them all? and stop gangbanging among each other. And stop telling those of us that don't subscribe to those particular religions the way that you prescribe to those religions, that who are we to teach Muhammad? And who are we to tell Muhammad about Muhammad's business? What type of arrogance is that? To tell somebody that because you don't wear the name Muhammad and because you don't subscribe to the religion of Islam, you shouldn't be listened to. Oh, you silly disciple of Muhammad. What did Jesus say about that? We're going to get to that. But I want to talk about this man that sowed good seed in his field. Because the intention of planting a seed is harvest time, isn't it? Is that not the end result of what we want to do when we plant a seed? So if we're talking about culture, the first culture we got to take back is our agriculture. Because as long as we continue to eat the food that Satan is providing for us, the number of times that he's saying we need to eat it every day, we will no longer be able to be in shape to deal with fighting him and producing the man that God wanted to produce when he created us. We got to take back our agriculture. We got to begin to feed ourselves. We got to use what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us and how to eat to live so that we can live. And understand that you don't eat just because you say your stomach is hungry, but you eat because you want to give your body nutrients and nutrition so that this body can perform at its highest best. Many people drive imported cars and fancy cars that don't require, you can't use the cheap 87 gas. You got to use the 93, or you got to add a special type of oil to your car, because if you don't, it'll drive, but it's not going to perform the way that it was designed to perform. And that's the same thing with these human bodies. Minister Rahim taught us to be a scientist in the laboratory of ourselves so that we can begin to see the miracle of God, so that we can understand and receive what God has for us. And so that's why we, in the month of December, practice the Ramadan fast started by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he said the fast was started to help us not just subdue ourselves, but to help us not partake in the falsehood of Santa Claus and the death of Yashua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Notice he said the falsehood of. I just don't understand how long we're going to lie to our children about some fat white man in some red long underwear with cocaine under his nose, and his buddies standing next to him and snorted up all his cocaine, so his nose is red as ever. So when are we going to start telling our children the truth? But Matthew 13, verse 25 says, but while men slept, it says his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. Understand that for a seed to get to the point of harvest, the first thing that seed does is it splits, and it sends a shoot down into the ground that forms the roots of whatever's about to take place. It says an enemy came and planted tares in the same field that God planted his seed in. And so if we want to get to the root of this situation, understand that the tare and the wheat underground at the root, they both look the same. Satan's whole understanding or whole so-called power that he has over us is to make things that are wrong fair seeming. He actually has no power. The tare can't destroy the seed, but the tare can serve as a distraction and a discouragement to keep us from meeting God's potential for us when that seed is planted in us. So the tare represents the infrastructure of racism, and the wisdom of waiting is like the opioid of faith, because you can't just go and say there's a tare among the wheat let's just go dig it all up and we'll be able to get to the tare, because the tare and the wheat at the root look the same. And so if you do that, you'll destroy the harvest. And so you just can't take black people and remove us from the influence of white people and think everything is going to be okay, because they've sowed some tares among us too. And as Minister Taharka said, we become more European than the European in his thinking, because he is the number one murderer on the planet. He is the one in charge of nuclear weapons that can push a button and wipe off part of the face of the earth. Black people didn't create stuff like that. He is. And so we can't just uproot ourselves totally from white people and think our challenges will be gone tomorrow because we got all of their thinking in our head. We got all of their religious understandings instead of overstanding. All their religious understandings. So the most valuable seed that we need to plant is the seed called time. Because at the appropriate time, God will show us when harvest time is. And when harvest time comes, then you'll be able to take up the tares and the wheat, and you'll be able to distinguish what's a tare and what's a wheat. Because in harvest time, it doesn't matter as much, because the goal is to take the harvest and to get the fruit from the seed that's planted. But at that time, you'll be able to distinguish the two and take the tare and put it in a bundle, and you'll be able to burn and get rid of it while you'll be able to receive the fruit of the harvest that God is planting. Well, what is this harvest, or what is this fruit that God has intended for us? God intended for us to do three things. He intended for us to do and to follow his commandments. He intended that, and through that process, that we will become like him, because we were created in his image and his likeness. And then the third thing is for us to reproduce him in other people. So we have to begin to re-educate, to retrain youth and young adults to do what? To have some positive moral values, because we don't have values anymore. Morality is not something that's being talked about in our community. The moment you point out anything about anybody, they become sensitive and hyper-aggressive and want to beat you down and fight you and tell you why you want to shame me, and as if shame is a bad thing now. When I was growing up, that's all you heard. Boy, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know your mama raised you better than that. And right then, the shame would sink in, and you would begin to feel some type of remorse, and everything that they said at that point you would take in, and prayerfully it would lead to a difference in your behavior. And somewhere in that process, you knew that some type of punishment was going to come with that too. So most of the remorse wasn't just because they shamed you, but it was because you knew the consequence was coming for embarrassing this family. For letting that woman have to come down here and tell me about my child, and you knew you did it and didn't come tell me first. Or was I the only person who had a mama and a grandmama like that? But the purpose of culture, in the root word of culture is the word cult. What is a cult? A cult is defined as a loving organization. A loving organization. How could rap music be the culture of Black people and it not even be what the definition of the word says it is? How can it be? Minister Hakim taught us in such an unorthodox method that many people of different faiths consider us to be perpetrating a fraud. Consider us to be following or stealing their teachers' teachings or something, so to say. The first thing Minister Raheem did in the Temple of Mercy Association was let you know who had the greatest amount of the eternal divine spirit in them. He shared with us who these people were. He taught us their teachings. He taught us their teachers' teachings and showed us how they themselves had grown so beyond the religious label that they held on themselves that it was of a greater understanding. Meaning, he didn't connect the Temple of Mercy Association to a religion. He connected us to the one God. Minister Raheem Kased Aton's name means mercy, mercy of the one God. What do we mean when we say the one God? Meaning that everything comes from the great mind. A great mind woke us up this morning. A great mind started us on our way. And if we're ever to see or be in the presence of this great mind, we have to follow what the great mind instructed us to do. And in that process, we'll become a smaller version or representative of the great mind. We're not going to become the great mind, but we'll become a reflection of it, and we'll be able to say, like Yashua, when you see me, you see the Father. But why? Because I only do the things that please him. I do the things that he created me to do. I uphold the righteous and moral principles that he placed in the earth. As how do you know my people? How will you be able to distinguish those that follow the great mind is by their action, their morality, their deeds, and their works, not by what comes out of their mouth, not by the dress that they're wearing. So black people, we got to stop all of this religious gangbanging and recognize the uniqueness. Man, that eternal divine spirit got in Marcus Garvey and reminded us that we had to have a race-first philosophy and internal and eternal trading mechanisms among black people in Africa and in America. He would say it with the Africans at home and abroad. But that understanding had to be upgraded, because you can get a little confused when you start talking about race first. Because one of the biggest fights and challenges black people have is we don't know who to connect ourselves to. We keep trying to connect ourselves to the sandbox people, the icebox people, the Moroccans, the Europeans, the Anu, the Ashuns, the Osirises, the Horuses, and not understanding that we are supposed to be connected to the great mind. We're supposed to be connected to God, not his attributes, not his dress, not his holy book, not his method of prayer, but directly to God. So we thank the most honorable Marcus Garvey for being used by this great eternal divine spirit. We thank the most honorable Elijah Muhammad for receiving the knowledge of self, how to eat, to live, and do for self from the eternal great mind. We recognize and accept Ben Ami Ben Israel of the African Hebrews of Jerusalem for that divine spirit living and dwelling in him. We honor and respect Dr. Martin Luther King for his struggle for civil rights and eventual transformation to economic and political empowerment. We thank that eternal divine spirit for him accepting and raising up Prophet Noble Drew Ali to remind us of our nationality, birthright, and creed. We thank the eternal divine spirit for Jesus, Yashua HaMashiach, the Black Messiah, for reminding us of our anointing and our salvation and our purpose for life, which was to fulfill the law of God. We thank him and recognize each one of these people's uniqueness in being able to represent the eternal divine spirit. But we do not and we will not take one of these above the other.
Say that.
Muhammad is not better than Jesus, and Jesus is not better than Muhammad. Based on whatever title or situation that you want to put on them and saying who's better. Just the thought of saying I'm better than my brother brings you into the understanding of becoming Satan, because that's how he was created. When the gods created Adam and they asked Iblis to bow, and everybody bowed but Iblis, because Iblis had the audacity and the arrogance to stand up there and say, I'm better than him. I'm made of smokeless fire. He's made of mud. Why should I bow to him? And that's the same arrogance that black people got today. And in the Temple of Mercy Association, we got to suffer on all sides, standing up and defending the life, the legacy, and times of these honorable men. We're not Muslim. We don't wear the name Muhammad, but we subscribe to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And because we do, we automatically inherit the enemies that want to come against and wipe this man out of history. Not only that, but we got to endure the members, not all, but some of his members who think because we don't wear the name Muhammad and we don't accept Islam, that who are we to even teach about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad? Because if you really understood the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, you would be in the nation. Well, when I read the book, it said message to the black man. It didn't say message to Muhammad. It said message to the black man in America, and in the Temple of Mercy Association, that is our sole duty, is to the black men and women in the hells of North America, not all over the world. We have a specific assignment and a specific duty to be here to resurrect those chosen people of God that got all the nationality and blood of everybody on the earth flowing through their veins, because God is creating a 13th tribe right here in North America. And so that's why we don't subscribe to your particular religions. But that don't mean we're not going to take the teachings of the eternal divine spirit that came through that person. It's not yours. Some of us think when we gain a knowledge and understanding of God, it's ours. This is ours now. And we want to hold on to it and keep it to our chest, and only those that come under your particular persuasion, religions, and pay their tariffs and tithes and what am I trying to say, zakat, then now you're a true person under Islam. No, you don't get away with that, because we connected to the eternal divine spirit, and we're going to recognize him everywhere and in everybody we see him in. And we can never thank the Creator enough for placing his eternal divine spirit in our leader, teacher, and guide, Minister Hakim Aton, so that we can rise above these petty differences and understandings among religion, so that we can see from the thinking of God and what he intended to create it, and how his children are all over the place, scattered, holding on to a piece of his knowledge and not really having the whole picture, and can't see the whole picture, because every time we found a piece of his knowledge, we want to take the one that we had before that and throw it away. Instead of putting the pieces together so we can see the whole picture, we want to go through one. We might start out Christian, learn about Islam, so we throw the Christianity away, and then we learn about ancient Kemet, then we want to throw both of them away, because we start to begin to believe that people are plagiarizing, and this is the same story happening over and over again. They must have stole our history. That's why Minister Hakim taught us that the earth been here 66 trillion years. They all lived. It all happened. Cycles and things continue to repeat themselves. And so regardless of how they might have tricked us in these books, because you get some people who don't want to understand the eternal divine spirit because they say, y'all quote them books too much. Well, these books represent him. But when you got a direct connection to him, you can take these books and throw them in that garbage over there, and God can still use and speak through you and give you the same thing in these scriptures. These scriptures are supposed to bear witness to you and show you how far you are either on the path or off the path. And if you are a believer or a disbeliever, because it's going to show you through the character and attitude of those that walk before you, which side you on. So that's why these books are important. That's why scripture is important. That's why we got to come and read our Holy Bible. That's why we got to take our Holy Quran and read them, because Minister Rahim said one represented 180 degrees of knowledge and the other represented 180 degrees of knowledge. And if you put them together, you'll get 360. Add your 5 senses to it and you will have some damn sense. We fight. Every time we talk about the enemy, somebody in his religious cult want to come against you. So now we've become whores to religion. Don't talk about the sandbox people, because they represent Islam and we represent Islam. And so when you come against them, you come against the teachings of the prophet. And the Quran told us we're supposed to behead people that come against the teachings of the prophet. No, we're not coming against the teachings of the prophet. We're actually living the teachings of the prophet and uncovering the enemy that's hiding behind these religions and doing his dirty work and destroying our people. So black people, if you want to know the solution, unity starts in alliances and building solidarity among the nations of gods on earth, with all of these different religions that happen to be number one in America. The Garvey understanding, Elijah Muhammad and his Islam. And I hope I don't offend nobody by saying his Islam, because, well, I'm sorry, we just so happen to be pro-black, and we just so happen to be black nationalists. And the Islam that he taught said the black man is God. That's a race-first philosophy, a race-first philosophy. He said every time you look at the black man, you see God. Well, the religion of Islam won't even give the prophet a color. Won't even tell you what he looked like. But we know he black. We're going to study and understand our relationship to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that we are the original Hebrews or the original Jews, and that these so-called Johnny-come-lately Jews, who even call themselves Jews, can't be of the lineage of Abraham and Israel because of the language that they're using, and that the J has only been in existence 500 years. You can't be the original using an alphabet that got here yesterday. The Hebrew religion didn't start yesterday. You stole somebody's birthright. You stole somebody's nationality. You stole somebody's land. And you stole somebody's inheritance. But that's all right. We're not going to fight you over the land, because we know the book teaches us that the earth is ours and the fullness thereof. So wherever we step feet on 2 feet, topsoil of God's good earth is ours. You're not gonna get us caught up in the fight about going back to nowhere. No, we own it all. We ain't got to go back to Africa. We own that too. But we own America. We own Europe. We own every part of this planet, because that's what God gave us as a home. And so I'm hoping that something I'm saying is like the kingdom of heaven and the man who sowed good seeds in his field, because I'm sowing these seeds into the minds and the hearts of those that are under the sound of my voice and those that are listening on Facebook, because we have to understand who we are. We got to have and develop some type of race esteem that is among us. And we got to stop fighting these fights. We got to stop letting their teaching of more science tell us that we are only connected to Native Americans and we're not supposed to be connected to Africans. And then the other group are saying, no, we don't supposed to be connected to the natives because the natives enslaved our people and benefited from slavery. We only supposed to be connected to Africans. And then another group is saying, well, the transatlantic slave trade didn't even take place. Show me proof. And so everybody is connecting us to their slave master history and wanting us to accept that as the be all. And then we're supposed to denounce everybody else for them. When I'm telling you the blood of all the nations, we are the original native. We are the original people of Kemet. And I said Kemet because Africa was named after an Italian Jew, Louis Africanus. That wasn't the original name of our land, nor was it our original tongue. So we don't have to get caught up in fighting over different titles and names. But we're going to have to, Black people in our community, form some alliances, have some solidarity among each other. We got to rise above these religious differences that continue to keep us in the condition that we find ourselves in, which is against each other, not working together. I don't want y'all, I hope y'all don't believe that all Europeans get along with each other. World War I, II, and III should have showed you. They don't get along with each other either. They fight. But when it's time to deal with an enemy that's threatening their very existence, they know how to put aside all that religious stuff, all that ethnicity stuff, all that everything that may divide them and come together and deal with their enemies. Why we can't do the same? Why we can't come and stand as a united front against gun violence in our community and not worry about if everybody claimed their nationality that day or got their card, or worry about if everybody there is a Muslim or a Black Peace Stone Nation, and not worry about if somebody come to the set that's from the Gangster Disciples and they not really up with it. And so when we begin, I think everything has to start and begin in God. So we got to pray in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. And then for those that don't subscribe to that, now we got to make them feel some kind of way because they remember that same prayer when they was incarcerated, and that same person that did that prayer gave them a pumpkin head. So now you want them to come out on the street and accept your prayer. And if they don't, something wrong with them. But with all the hurt and harm that's been done to us under these religious persuasions and titles, we can't seem to take these things and set them to the side and understand it just what they are. They titles. The greatest title man can have is brother, is sister. Not all this religious stuff. We got to put that stuff to the side. We got to put that stuff on the table. We got to leave it outside the door when we sit at the table of alliance and the table of solidarity to deal with what we're dealing with in our community. Homicide don't skip over nobody's religion. Bullets don't bypass nobody because they got a Holy Quran and hit the person with the Bible. It's taking us all out. I'm tired of trying to bring us together in the community to deal with the challenge. And before we could deal with the emergency that's going on in the community, which is the children and women not being protected and killed, we got to deal with your religious philosophy. I got to accept my nationality and get my card. I got to go get my X and my Muhammad and write my letter before we can really work together. I got to grow my beard and say shalom, shalom before you will come and deal with the killer that's rampant in our community. Are y'all serious? Y'all that petty? It's an emergency. When it's an emergency and you hurt and you go to the doctor, are you going to stop the doctor before they operate and say, hold on, are you Muslim? Have you accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior? Then when you can't operate on me, are you going to stop the doctor from saving your life because they didn't prescribe to your religion? I don't know. We so crazy, some of us might. But we are in trouble, y'all. But God is always going to be God. And everything that God has for us, he have a purpose. And so we have to decide, are we going to be his purpose, or are we going to be an example of his punishment and his consequence? Are we the believers? Are we going to set aside religious and philosophical differences? Are we going to set aside cultural differences to be seen and known as a believer? Are we going to let the seed take root in us under the oneness of God, so that when harvest time comes, we can all still be here coexisting together? Or are we just going to stay in disunited and die? I know we all heard about the fist and the fingers, and that grandma said if you pull them all together, you can strike a mighty blow. Is that just going to continue to be grandma saying? Or are we going to be that mighty fist and come together? Man, so much going on in our community, so many solutions, but we don't want to accept it because we don't agree with somebody's religion. We don't agree with somebody's understanding. Man, the hell with all of that. You got to get what you need to get so that you can do what you need to do. We talk about the education of our children. If they don't treat you right, what makes you think they're going to teach you right? I sent my kids to third world, to the International Institute of Positive Education's Barbara Sizemore and Betty Sabar's International Charter Schools, founded by Hakim, so that my children can learn learn our history, get and understand what a race first philosophy is. And then when it came to discipline, because they didn't have as much discipline as the Nation of Islam, the minister told me, send my kids to Muhammad University. And I sent them to Muhammad University. And my family thought I was a madman. You sending my babies over there to become Muslims? And that was at the time when we were talking about the war in Iraq and Iran, and Muslims was going around blowing up buses and this and that. And my mother them thought that I was just lost my mind. Why would I be sending my children to become Muslims? I said, Mama, they're not going to that school to become Muslims. No more than when you sent my sister to Catholic school, did you intend on her becoming a nun? You sent her to that school because of the disciplines and what was being taught. And because Minister Rahim had already told us who Minister Louis Farrakhan was on our scene, it would only make good sense to send my children to his school so that they can be taught and educated, because we didn't have one to replace him. Wasn't no other options but those two schools. I hope God hurry up and bless Dr. Umar. I think he got a great idea. But a lot of y'all ain't gonna support him because he beat up y'all damn religion. And y'all ain't gonna forgive him for that. That's why y'all don't want to help him. What he's trying to do is right. But we represent Aton, the one God in the Toma Nation. And I just want to read a little history about Aton and who he was. He was an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom appeared in ancient Egypt. And he was famous for transforming the traditional religions of Egypt from the many worships of God to a single God named Aton. He was born in Egypt in 1372 BC. Once he became pharaoh, Aton decided to reform the Egyptian religion. For thousands of years, the Egyptians had worshipped various gods such as Amun, Isis, Osiris, Horus, and Thoth. Don't that sound like today? Black people in America and they various gods such as Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, I knew, and some of us subscribe to these guys that I just named. Don't that sound the same? To believe in a single God, or in the temple of mercy, as we say, the eternal divine spirit. So when you ask me about the culmination and why don't we stop what we doing and come and get with you and stop perpetrating the fraud, I hope you understanding what our purpose is. Rahim Kased Aton is the mercy of the one God. And I'm telling you right now, black people need some mercy. Grace is gone. We out of time. We in the book of Revelation. All y'all still running around talking about prophets and prophecy. Ain't no more prophecy. Prophecy has been fulfilled. You either a believer or a disbeliever, and you either gonna get the punishment or the wrath of God. And just like the tares and the wheat, when you get your butt whooped, sometimes they look the same. But black people, when you get your butt whooped, you better understand that when God whooping your butt, like your mama used to tell me, this is hurting me more than it's hurting you. I'm grown, I understand that now. I thought my mama was crazy when she said that to me. You're gonna whoop my butt and it's gonna hurt you more than it hurt me. Really? When I'm the one catching these belt whips. But it's the truth. God only chastises those whom he loves. So we got to come back to the understanding of the one God. That's why we have the Temple of Mercy Association, an all-inclusive, black conscious, righteous movement dedicated to the social, spiritual, and economic upliftment of black people. And I don't think it's one religion that I've named or one group that I talked about that don't have that as one of their goals or one of their aims that they seek to have happen. We want the upliftment of black people. We want the protection of our women and children. We want to control the distribution and market share of what comes into our community, because we know to control market share means that we're going to control the currency and circulate it so that we can create the necessary jobs to get rid of the 93 unemployment percent rate among 24 to 30-year-olds. That's the most dangerous group. That's the group that's out here being killed because they out here partying all the doggone time off of these drugs and alcohol. And that's the group that's being killed because they're not at work. If you was working like you were supposed to be, some of this trouble we wouldn't get in, because you wouldn't have time to get in trouble. You wouldn't be worried about your safety and walking around with a 100 clip in your pocket. So the Temple of Mercy Association is here. We located at 616 East on 71st Street. You can join us here on Sundays from 12:30 to 2 in person. You don't have to just watch us on Facebook, but if you are watching us on Facebook, I want you to like and subscribe to our page so that you can get the notifications about what's going on in this movement. And if you agree with what I told you before, which is the social, spiritual, and economic upliftment of black people, you know it takes finance to uplift a nation. And so we ask you to see our Cash App and our Givelify donations in the chat. And if God so put it on your heart to donate to us, we ask you to join the Toma Nation. You don't have to have a religion to be a member of the Toma Nation. And if you got a religion, you can bring it in here as long as you're not going to use it as a divisive tool to get at somebody else, because we believe that all these religions represent a fraction of the truth of the knowledge of the Creator. And I don't know what school y'all went to, but the school I went to taught us when you want to add fractions, you got to find a common denominator. When you want to add fractions, you find a common denominator. Anything else ain't a God. So join us each and every Sunday at 12:30, 616 East on 71st Street. Donate to our Cash App or our Givelify and come be a part of the solution that you want to see. Help us to build these alliances and solidarity among our different groups and brothers. Because we love the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We love the honorable Marcus Garvey. We love Ben Ami Ben Israel. We love the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And we love Yashua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Some call him Jesus. We love all of them because we come from all of them. And all of those are our brothers. The eternal divine spirit is our Father. And we're all God's children. So we're not going to be divided among somebody's religious persuasion and understanding and label and titles that they want to put on us. We're going to unite. We're going to do everything we can to protect and save our women and children and our communities. And we're going to help reduce some of this trauma and violence in our community. And we're not going to go to the root of the problem. We're going to tell you exactly what's going on, exactly who's doing what. And we're not going to be afraid to tell you what's going on. We've been saying since the 90s, since we began, what Kanye just told y'all. We've been saying since the 90s what Kyrie is coming into the knowledge of, that we were the original Hebrews. We the original people under the light of the sun. And for all of y'all that think that we're a member or a follower of Albert Pike because you see this compass in this square, Albert Pike is not our father. The masonry that we subscribe to don't come from Europe. The masonry that we subscribe to comes from ancient Kim, and it consists of 7 degrees. It's not the Knights Templar. It's not the 32nd or the 33rd, because those are the degrees that Albert Pike, under the Ku Klux Klan, initiated and created, and that was the terror among black people that he put in so that he can meet us on a level while he take his people to the 33rd degree and tell them that we have, as far as possible, extinguished every avenue by which light can enter into the slave's mind. We have him now on the level of a beast, and as long as he stay on the level of a beast, we should be safe. Only beasts fight over religion and not use it to uplift some people. So no, we are not the children of Albert Pike, because you see this square and compass, but we understand that masonry, in the beautiful system of morality that it is, and all of how it's veiled in allegory and illustrated by signs and symbols, it is definitely a tool that's going to help us unite black people, because we understand that each one of those degrees in masonry represents the majority of these religions that we talked about. And so that is one of Minister Raheem's efforts to bring unity to the black community. I thank you for listening. I leave you as I greeted you in the ancient but yet holy words of peace, in the languages of our forefathers, in Hotep, Shalom, Assalamu alaikum, and the Baragani. Peace.
I feel like I don't even have nothing to say after he already did the closing out himself. But again, if you enjoy what you have heard, which was actually a very powerful and very informative lecture, The Culture of the Believer, that's one that we're going to have to go and rewatch a few different times, because the messaging that he had in there, it hit like a brick. And I hope that brick knocks some of y'all out to wake y'all up. But I leave you as he already left you. Like, share, comment. It helps the algorithm that they like shadow banning us from in the first place. But we know the revolution won't be televised. But come join us in person, as he said, at 616 East on 71st Street each and every Sunday. Join us for Appreciation Day. Join us for the day of reflection as we come out of their holidays, and join us through the whole Kwanzaa season. I leave you as we greeted you. Minister Harka, out. Peace.
In the essence of the eternal divine spirit, the one that causes all that exists to exist, the one that is self-existent.
How many men have children and the children never meet their father? See, you created a void in that child because you are a part of that child.
Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!